the problem with social media is it doesn't reflect always. If you make a light-hearted comment, it can come across not in the tone that it was actually given. I don't think there was any inference in what was said by the clerk that he was being rude to Melina, but I think it is something that, again, we all need to just be careful when we're posting on social media, because it is very easy for things to go the wrong way and be taken the wrong way.
Can I just say something there?
Please do,
Mr. Chairman. I mean, that remark came on the back of a frustration of so much inaccuracy that was being mooted on there, and frankly, it was unacceptable. I mean, for example, the comment that referred to was a comment that Councillor Kingscote made about the finger in the air job when it came to setting a rental value. There was no such thing. I put on the social media that, in fact, it was the 5th of April 2023 that we agreed as a council. We had a fulsome discussion, and if you look at the discussion online on YouTube, you'll see we had a very detailed discussion about it. It was not a finger in the air job at all. It was a controlled and thought through decision that the council made for all sorts of reasons, which were on that YouTube broadcast. And frankly, I found it very frustrating that a councillor would come out with that sort of remark when the councillor involved was at the meeting. That's the frustration, and that's why perhaps I made a remark that maybe was seen, perhaps a little bit harsh, but nevertheless, my point that I was making was, make sure you read the minutes, make sure you read what you're actually quoting. Because if you don't do that, you're going to give the wrong information to people, which is exactly what's happened. People have picked up on the wrong information and got the wrong message. And I stand by it. I don't withdraw it. I stand by it. It was a decision I made at the time when I wrote it. That's how I felt. And I believe it was meant in a slightly light-hearted way, as the Chairman said, slightly light-hearted way. But at the end of the day, it came out of frustration. I was trying to put to the public in Brent Knoll the facts of the situation, which had got terribly muddied over a number of posts. So I hope that gives you a take on where it came from.
Melina and then John.
For the record, I only actually placed 2 posts.
I think though, Melina, the key thing is when, as councillors, we are seen as a councillor, even if we're not posting saying we are a councillor. You can't divorce yourself completely from that role, and people will see a name posting there who they identify as being a councillor. They will assume that that person is putting information that is fully accurate and is not coming can potentially, some of the information that was being put on there was put in a way that did imply that things were, when you've got comments about the council making its decision with a finger in the air, it does not reflect well on the council. And one of the things within our policy related to social media is none of us are supposed to be putting stuff on there which is either derogatory of the council or of the council's employees. There was also another remark in there that you made that Owen hadn't done his job properly at one point. You were accused him of, which is not something that you should be doing as a councillor on a public forum. But I don't particularly want to be having discussions about what we should and shouldn't be doing on social media in a public meeting itself. But it is something that all of us have to think very carefully of, about how we represent ourselves and, as councillors, how we in effect represent the council when we're on social media. Melina.
I would just like to say that at no point did I say that I was a councillor. I only post as myself, whereas Owen clearly calls himself out as being the clerk and makes comments like that.
Because he is there acting as the clerk. And
yeah, that's fine.
And if I post on there,
but I only posted as
people
myself.
know I am a councillor. Melina, people know you are a councillor. Your picture is on your post, so people know who you are when you post. You can't be anonymous.
To be fair, I don't look like that picture.
Well, most of us have got slightly older pictures than we probably may have, but But no, I mean, I think it is something that all of us have to realise that even when you are posting as an individual, people will see us as members of the parish council, and you can't step away from that, and that's something where all of us, as I say, have to be very careful, because again, we're putting out information, and if it does set hairs running, that people then think they've got the wrong end of the information, then that can cause a lot of angst within the village, and a number of the rest of us then get calls from people saying, have you seen what's on the latest thing? You ought to go and have a look at it. I mean, it's something that we need to think seriously about before we start doing that sort of information. It needs to be 100% accurate, and as I say, Owen posts on there as the clerk when he is dealing with information relating to parish council matters. Otherwise, Owen wouldn't be posting on the Brent Knoll site anyway. He's not.
I'm not in Brent Knoll. And the point is, I don't know if you've also noticed that the posts I put on there are never an opinion about the shop. They're always factual. It's about what has actually been agreed. It's about factual information. It's not me giving my opinion. I think the shop is wonderful, or I think the shop is terrible. That's not what I do on there. I never have done. And I've never done that in any public forum. I do have a view about the shop, of course I do personally, but you've never heard me transmit that to the public. And so I think, you know, my role as a clerk is governed by employment law. Yours is governed by a code of conduct. There's a big difference. And that's really the sum total of it, actually. And I hope that will satisfy people who read it. You won't find me going on there very often. There's only a couple of posts on there. It's not something I do regularly. I don't like Facebook particularly. Yeah.
John?
I just want to finish that bit off. I think we've gone around social media quite a lot, but I'd just like to add to that, in my opinion, I'm not here to defend any councillor at all. It's all very viewable online, and it stays online unless it's taken down. But two wrongs in my eyes don't make a right, and personally, I think those comments were inappropriate.
And what would you like to happen, Mr. John?
It's not for me to say anything. You've made your point clear.
Well, if you say it's not appropriate, what is
I think
the point you're making?
I think that's you're making the situation worse. What you just said there, that those comments are derogatory for another councillor. So you have effectively just compounded the issue, in my opinion.
Well, and you heard the clerk has said he was not.
And he should apologise for it, which is fine. So that's on record.
Okay. Any other comments any other members have? Right. In which case, that takes us to the working groups report and the footpaths team. Any reports on the footpaths, other than they are
muddy?
Yes.
Yeah, just that we need to get a working party out to put those away more, because I know it's really horrendously muddy at the moment, so that's probably not something we need to think about at the minute, but just maybe in the spring. No one's going to want to go down there anyway.
Having been stupid enough to venture up there on Boxing Day,
Oh my
I went to
God,
the top of the knoll and it was incredibly muddy.
That's horrific.
The
Yeah.
National Trust steps are worse than they've ever been. They desperately do need them to carry out the works on theirs, and obviously we're going to be looking at what we need to do as a parish in terms of the path heading up there, because that is getting considerably worse. It's amazing how much it's eroded in the last few months. It's got considerably worse than it
Almost
was.
people seem to be using the field now.
To be honest, it's the only safe way of coming down.
It is,
It's-
exactly. It's lethal.
Yeah.
No, yeah. But she doesn't seem to mind. I don't know. I haven't had a chance to speak to her, but everyone seems to be to and fro up and down now. So, yeah.
I think as we mentioned at the last meeting, myself and David are looking into getting some information about the drainage issues. As the drainage issues are affecting the path, and the path is affecting the drainage issues. They're feeding off each other at the moment, and I think we do need to come up with a proposal to the parish council as to what we can do to try and alleviate this, because it is something that if we don't deal with it before long, there are going to be potential injuries up there, because as I say, it's getting to the point now where it's
There is one more thing I was going to say. The one that goes around the reservoir,
Yeah.
the back of the water tower, when you get into the other side, say not the Windy Ridge side, the other end, that style
where the
is
steers, horses.
before you get to that bit, when you get into the I think it's Heather Allsop's
Okay.
field, the style that goes into there is kind of disintegrating, and that's it's not great to climb over now. The bit that you used to go over is sort of gone, and it's all wobbly and rubbish. So that's going to need addressing.
Can I just ask you, is it one that would be appropriate to replace with the kissing gate?
Yeah, yes,
In
there
which
is
case,
one.
would the
isn't there?
council be happy that we contact Chris East and see if we can get a kissing gate?
Isn't there one? Wasn't there one somewhere?
Kicking around at some stage.
What about that one that's in Cox Hall?
That's going behind the chair.
That
Oh,
had
okay.
that had another location I was
okay,
going
yeah.
to.
Yeah, no, we need to do something about that.
So is everyone happy that we contact Chris East to see if we can get a replacement kissing gate, which we'll then obviously need to get
Yeah,
installed?
because they've got sheep in that field now, and there's no.
Can you just describe the location again, so I get the location absolutely right? Where would you say?
Round there.
Right, so it's round there,
Yeah. So
nothing
so
there,
where
down there.
so at the back of the reservoir,
Back
where
of
the
the
iron fence, their fence, at the end of the reservoir fence,
Number.
Can you have a look at the map and let us know which?
we had a lot of 3 words in it, didn't we?
Because all I'm asking for is, Chris will be, what are you asking?
Where their fence finishes on the Allsop side, not on the Windy Ridge side, but David.
The Brent Knoll side of AX 81.
Brent Knoll side of AX. Right, okay.
Well, up by the reservoir, the start of AX 81, not Burton Road, East Brent, end of 81.
Before you leave tonight, Owen, we will, at the end of the meeting, we'll go through and we'll work it out.
Otherwise, I've got no find
Could be an
words.
existing email.
Absolutely. Okay. Anything else on footpaths?
Only that one at the end of Brent Street, before we turn into Station Road, the corner that's...
That's not.
Oh, it's not a
That's not
footpath,
footpath. That's a pavement.
Sorry,
So
quiet. Right.
the next item is highways.
Yeah, that
What
one.
would you like to report anything for highways?
Well, I reported it last time, and it is that pavement that has... Yeah. Yes.
So I've also reported that now on the app, so that it should be being dealt with. Basically, it's the pavement opposite Westcroft Farm.
Yes.
Half of the pavement now has
Yes.
dropped into the green,
Yeah.
or is dropping into the green.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, anything else on highways that anyone's got? Okay.
Any news on road closure?
We had today we've had letters delivered to the residents who are in the road closure area on Brent Street. This is the one that's happening from the 8th until the 19th. The plan is that they're now telling us is that they will be working on site between 8 in the morning and 6 at night, but it is likely they will be keeping the road shut because the trenches won't necessarily be closed. They will be talking to, as they get to the various stages, they will do it in step by step. They won't close the whole road together, so they will maintain access from one side or the other to all properties, so you can get in, but people may have to go around the knoll to get there. There will be road diversion signs going up before they start work, which will show exactly the route for diversion. They are having some further discussions. The school is putting out notices to all the parents to warn them and to ask them to leave a bit more time because it will take them longer. They are trying to see what they can do about the school buses, is the other thing that is a potential issue. They're due to come back to me hopefully on the school buses tomorrow, but as things stand at the moment it looks like it's still going ahead, but they will try and minimise impact on people where they can, but unfortunately they've got to dig the road up to get the fibre through. So, but they are hoping that it will be done within, they were initially saying 12 days, they're now saying possibly 10, and they're hoping it might be less than that if they can get on with it quickly. Okay, AD had actually reported one other highway issue which has been dealt with partially. On Ham Road, one of the sides of the road had been badly broken or worn back. They've apparently filled it with scalpings. Unfortunately, some of those are now coming out on the road.
Disappeared.
So we're reporting that again, but it will give it another go. Okay, if there's nothing else on highways, we've got any other. Who did green toilet block and car park? Owen?
I did. I always do the December one because in fact I've only got 11 councillors in 12 months, so it makes it simpler if I just do one of the months. Now I visited the green and the toilet block on the 14th, the 19th and the 30th of December. Village Green I rated as 4, which is, and remember the rating is based on the time of the year. Not that it was in a pretty good state, but for the time of the year it was okay and acceptable. All occasions, Spectre Green was virtually unusable, with so much waterlogged areas and worsened by the recent deluge of water. The play area is mostly tidy, however the equipment now in need of painting and tidying, which of course has been identified previously. The benches are all in acceptable shape, although some are in need of a bit of a spring clean when the weather improves. The fencing around the National Grid installation has been reported, however not much has happened and we need to remove it very soon. It's still there. We've reported National Grid. They've told us they're going to do something better and they haven't done anything about it. So that's something we need to take up. The car park and toilet block, again, only mark those as 3 because of the state of the car park. You know, the lines are missing. We've got the damage that was caused by the tree that was removed. It does look a bit untidy at the moment, but there's not much we can do about it whilst we're in the developing stage. I've written here, the car park should regain its former glory once the new build has been completed. Significant raising of the surface where the roots from the apple tree encroach. The white lining is now virtually disappeared and would need relining after all work has been completed and the shop water capping removed. The toilet block all seems to be functioning okay at the present time, although the problems with the hand dryer and the ladies is still ongoing, although on one of the occasions when I visited, it was working. So I would imagine there's a connection issue.
That was just for Christmas.
Not that I'm in the habit of going that regularly, but you know, just so that I'll have an investigation. And that's it on this one, and Amanda's doing the January one.
Can I just say something about it as well, please? Like when we were getting some stuff out from the shed at the back, the smell at the back is horrific. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's something bad going on in the toilets or under the
I
toilets.
think it's a drainage actually.
Yeah,
Mm.
it's like, you know, you couldn't even get a flag out without holding your nose. It's just like, oh my God. So be prepared as the scouts say.
I'm just hoping it hangs on until we demolish it.
Okay, could I just, in terms of the National Grid one, I think, can we send a final note to the National Grid saying we're not happy, they've got to move
I've
it?
done so.
And if they don't move it within a number of days, I think we should just physically
We will.
remove the Harris fencing.
If you don't move it, we will.
If we give them a sort of 7-day warning that that's either they shift it or we do. We'll chase up painting quotes because obviously there was a couple of people I contacted last year who haven't come back yet.
Yeah.
And in terms of the mugger, there is a mud bath in front of that at the moment. I think in the spring we're going to have to build that back up and reseed. It might mean, unfortunately, we'll have to close the mugger off for a while to let the grass re-establish itself, but it is a bit of a quagmire out there at the moment. Melina?
Was it not National Grid up there today doing something in that area?
No, I met today with the Highline to get a quote from them for doing the tree up by there, because we, at the last meeting, said we'd get a quote from them to match up with our other quotes. So once we've got all those quotes in, we'll then be looking to let that contract, bring it back to this meeting. Yeah, it was Highline, not National Grid. Okay, anything else on Village Green Car Park? No. So, I don't believe the audit and staffing group have met, or the working group, or the shop working group. So, quick update from Somerset Council. The financial position is still poor. Currently, the government have just announced their settlement for local councils for next year, and it's 6.1% increase in basic spending. That actually Somerset on average has got slightly less than a number of other councils across the country, so that is still leaving a gap of somewhere between 80 and 100 million pounds in next year's budget. So there will be announcements coming out in February as to what the council are planning to do. Without plugging the BK in too much, you will have seen there's an article in there about the council budget, and the council are currently running a consultation that people can send in their views as to what they think money should be spent on or what it shouldn't be for the Somerset Council. There is a link in the Brent Knoll News that you can do online, or you can type it in yourselves. It's a very long thing that I won't read out for you at the moment, but you can send your comments in. The deadline is the 22nd of January. So if you want to feed into the process, there is an opportunity. Apparently there have been quite a lot of replies already. Other things just to let you know about, starting from the new year, if you're taking DIY waste to the recycling centre, you're no longer going to get charged. There are limits as to how much you can take in there, and you have to book it in advance. But whereas before, for things like hardcore, rubble and plasterboard, you were having to pay even as a domestic resident, that's now being waived because basically the government told all councils they can't charge for it. As I mentioned at a previous meeting, the collection days for rubbish will be changing this year. We should find out soon as to whether we're going to be directly affected. Most of the old Sedgemoor area is, so it's likely our collection day will change. That will be for the recycling and the rubbish. It won't change the green recycling at the moment. Final thing on a slightly positive front, the government has given about £9.5 million to Somerset Council to help them deliver the phosphate mitigation measures, which are things that have been holding up a lot of house building, particularly in the south of Somerset. So that should see more houses being built in the south of Somerset rather than just in the north. And they've also just given £5 million to a health research grant to help Somerset in terms of delivering health issues across the county. But happy to take any questions regarding Somerset Council. Okay. Which takes us on to financial report. And Owen.
Well, basically the statutory payments remain. There's no change in January. April is the changing date for those generally. So they remain as previous months, as listed on the minutes back in April. We've got just two variable payments this month, which is office expenditure and allowances October to December 2023, £360.63, and decision power website management, £630. They're the only two payments that we have this month that are what can be described as variable payments. So I need really two resolutions to approve, one statutory payments and one the variable payments, please.
Okay. Looking for a proposal then for the statutory payments. Thank you. And second, Melina. All those in favour that we pay those, please show. That's unanimous. And the variable payments, again looking for a proposal for the two payments to be made. Tracy and David. All those in favour we pay those, please show. Again, that's unanimous. So clearly carried.
That's the payments.
Yep.
Then of course we come on to the local consideration of decision on local grants.
Yep.
And you will see in front of you, I thought it was only right, you should see a copy of those. One thing I just wanted to say that before you get into a discussion and decision about that, is that technically none of those four have complied with our grant policy. The grant policy has an application form attached to it and nobody's completed it. Also, no one's actually asked for an amount, which also is a rather strange situation. So, but at least you're looking at all of them like for like. None of them are any better or any worse than the others. They're all the same, basically. So, it's over to you, really. The only thing I would say is that the Dorset and Somerset ambulance, air ambulance, can be regarded as a local charity, whereas the children's air ambulance cannot, because it's operated from a different national base. So therefore it does not qualify under the general rules of parish council grants of giving to national charities. So one is very much complies, the other one doesn't. But it's an few at the end of the day. You know, four applications there, four ideas, shall we say. Two of them we have contributed to previously. The Somerset Dorset Air Ambulance we have contributed to previously, and Re-Engage we've contributed to previously. And CAB, of course, yeah. CAB haven't actually, I'll be honest with you, CAB has not even written to me, but they are under huge pressure. They're working with volunteers. They don't have the people to sit there and write out requests. And in the past, the council has always been generous and has always made a payment to them because people in this village do benefit from the CAB service. So, you know, it's no for you, really.
Okay. So just in general terms, we've got a total budget for grants that we put into the budget of £1,450. We are under no obligation that we have to spend all of it or any of it. It's up to members to decide. As Owen said, we've got, I think circulated to us was the 5 in effect. So we've got, if we maybe take them one at a time and see whether people feel they are ones that we should support, and then we can talk about the finance. There's the Re-Engage Brent Knoll, which is the organisations, as you will have seen and probably aware from previous years, they are involved with organising, in effect, social get-togethers for isolated people within the villages, and they do hold events within Brent Knoll. So that's Re-Engage. Somerset and Dorset Air Ambulance sort of does what it says on the tin. It's again for helping people who are in need of emergency medical care. It certainly does operate within our parish, and a number of people over the years have made use of their services. As Owen mentioned, the Children's Air Ambulance is more difficult for us as a parish to give grant to because it is a national element. It's a separate charity to the air ambulance, but because Somerset and Dorset is local, we can certainly have no problem with that part of it. The John Page local tap was obviously something that was discussed by the parish a little while ago, and relating to an item that we set up, I believe, a working group to liaise with the owners of the location of the tap, which was outside of John Wheat Harper's house, and that was something that was discussed at a previous meeting. CAB, as Owen said, Citizens Advice Bureau, is financial advice and other advice that is available to people locally and across. It used to be broken down into 4 districts. It's now been combined to cover the whole of Somerset, because that's where the funding now comes primarily from, but they do obviously contact often parishes for a contribution. I believe they still do outreach. Burnham-on-Sea is the nearest point that people can go to for us, rather than having to go to Bridgewater, which was the main centre previously. What do members feel? We'll start with Melina and then Amanda. Melina.
I would like to propose £500 for the Dorset and Somerset Air Ambulance, and they do a lot of work in this area, and by the sounds of it may well be doing some work on the top of the knoll if you keep walking up those treacherous paths, Bob.
Okay. Any other? Amanda?
I was going to suggest that nothing against this 4th one, but as you pointed out, the guidelines that Owen sent us out earlier about the grants, this doesn't fall into those. And I would suggest that we give £250 each to the other 4, the CAB, the Dorset and Somerset Air Ambulance, the TAP, and the other Christmas parties for people on their own. And then we keep the rest in reserve just in case we need anything else. So we'd spend £1,000 split between those 4. That's what I propose.
Okay. Melina?
I did have a suggestion for the Re-Engage. The warm spaces money that we have left over, could that be given to them? Because although it's slightly different, they're talking about holding a Christmas event and a, what was the other one? A summer party. So although the summer may not be a warm event, it's similar.
My
No.
answer to that probably would be that we'd have to sort of seek their permission anyway, community council, because community council gave that grant, and it's still sitting in our reserves effectively. I'm not sure we could just allocate it to somebody else, just like that. But, I could certainly ask the question, but I don't think it's something we could do just like that at this meeting.
Any other comments? So at the moment I've got two proposals. One is in effect £250 for each of the 4 groups, excluding the children's air ambulance. The other was for £500 for the Somerset and Dorset. Do you want? Is it probably easier if we take them in division?
Yeah, the best thing, isn't it?
Okay. So if we start with the re-engage, then the proposal is £250. All those in favour of us paying £250, please show. That's unanimous. So I'll take Somerset and Dorset last, because that's the only one that there's 2 proposals on. There's the John Page local tap refurbishment, which the proposal is there for £250 towards that. All those in favour, please show. And those against, and 1 abstention. I'm not going to vote on that.
Okay.
And then the CAB £250. All those in favour of that, please show. Any against, please show. And abstentions. So that's by a majority. And then on the Somerset and Dorset, probably the easiest thing is we've got in effect, two options, either £500 or £250. So if we start with the 500 was said first, so we'll go with the 500 first. So those in favour of doing a £500 contribution, please show to start with. Okay. Those for the 250, please show. Okay, and there were no ones undone, so that's 250. So in effect, we're doing 250 for each of the 4. That still leaves us 450, which we can come back to before the end of the financial year if another application came in, or potentially we could look back at whether we want to put some more towards the Somerset and Dorset.
And they will all be given a letter this week to confirm that. Payment will be made in due course.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Is it your wish that we don't really need to bring this back to the following meeting to have the payment authorised? Because technically we already authorised it, so we can now make those payments to those charities. Yeah.
Everybody happy we do that?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Excellent. That takes us on to item 8, which is matters for consideration. The first one is an update on the AMPR camera.
Well, we've got delivery date now, the 17th of January, and it's going to Colin's address. I spoke to Colin earlier on, even though he's down in Cornwall. I spoke to him and he's quite happy to accept the delivery on the 17th of the AMPR piece of kit. Once that happens, we can then set it up according with Stuart Nichols and see where we get to. But quite a significant piece of kit, really.
Excellent.
So that's on its way.
Okay. Question on this one. The next item is update on the community shop. Probably the tendering process, just an update on where we are with that, and the legal drafting progress is the...
Yeah. Well, let me tell you where we are at the moment. Obviously, after the 20th of December meeting, we decided to defer any further discussions until we asked for more information. And actually, I was amazed at how much information we got back, considering we've only had 2 weeks since that meeting, of which 10 days of it was virtually out of action. We've had a remarkable response. And I'm just going to briefly give you the sort of answers we're getting. Now, again, we cannot discuss the tender submissions, can't tell you who they are, or the amount. What I can do is identify it by tender A, and we asked for breakdown to section 14, which was the part of it that the shop is responsible for ultimately. And on tender A, we're waiting for information on that one. We will have it by the end of the week. Full details of relevant insurance cover will be provided on request. Details of health and safety expertise, public location. We've got quite a fulsome reply to that. Verbal method statement, risk assessment each day before starting work. All relevant PPE used. Any contractor enters a site to adhere to our health and safety policy, and signage where required. And a health and safety policy with full details of site address, secure fencing, etc. It's a pretty detailed situation there. Site management, many years experience in the area for domestic and commercial builds. Timing, all of these are prepared to hold their tender for the later dates. And I think that's important because most of them were quoting things like starting dates of 4 to 6 weeks, which wouldn't be possible. But they've all come back that they will hold their tenders. So that's good news on all of them. Credit checks have still got to be done when I find out how to do it. And environmental checks to be confirmed. So that's tender A. Tender B has actually done the breakdown of section 14. Again, full details of insurance cover provided on request. Details of health and safety, nothing as yet. Site management, references on all local small projects that they've undertaken recently can be provided. Timing and starts in line with National Grid project costs, waiting for confirmation but no inquest likely prior to the later start date. So that one is, we're getting there a little bit, slower than the others actually, I would say, that one. Tender B. Tender C, again we've got a breakdown of section 14. We've got full details of relevant insurance cover, a fully completed and safety report of 221 page length, detailing all matters relating to health and safety, cost report, safe working practices. This is, I've looked at the report and frankly it's incredible. It's just got everything in it. I don't think I certainly haven't read 221 pages and I've no intention of doing so. But the one thing that is good is that it's all there, basically, if we need it. Again, no increase in charges there, caused by National Grid delays, credit checks to be checked, environmental checks to be confirmed. So that's C, which is, of the three so far, probably one of the better ones. And then fourth, again, we're waiting for the breakdown of the section 14. That will come by the end of this week. And again, we've also got the same health and safety policy as the previous one, 221 pages, which cover just about everything you would ever wish to ask about health and safety and training schemes. So I think we can be reasonably sure on that. Many years of experience in the area, domestic and commercial builds. On references, I will contact a few recent clients for references as well as they are up to date and put together for the buildings working group. We also have some local sites we'd be happy to arrange a visit. So that sounds very positive. Happy to actually visit sites that are currently being worked on. And again, checks on credit have been done. So that's where we are basically. A to D, 4 tenders, which is work in progress. The buildings working group will have to meet at some stage. Once all the information is put together and we've got everything we need, then I think the buildings working group will need to meet and take it from there and then put it to the full council at a future meeting.
I think in terms of the future meeting, we'll be either looking, if the information comes through quickly enough, we've got our provisional meeting obviously for the 17th of this month, or the next meeting is the first? It's the first week in Feb, but...
first week in Feb. It's the first week in Feb.
Yeah.
I've got the
I was just wondering when we're actually going to get some costings to look at.
Because we're still waiting for the information to come in. So once we've got those, then that will be coming to the meeting, either the 17th, hopefully, or the February meeting.
one of the problems, Marlene, is if we shared the costings now, if we didn't mention the contractors, if we shared the costings, those contractors will know what the others were. Because if they look at YouTube, they know which is theirs, and so they know what the other three are. So to some extent, it's a bit unfair to them. Whereas this way around, we can properly narrow it down, because if we don't get the decent credit checks or the proper health and safety checks by all of them, then that may preclude them from being considered, possibly. And then if their information is put into the on the internet, that's not really fair to them. So we're trying to keep it as confidential at this stage as we possibly can, which I think is the right thing to do.
John?
I've had some time to read through the tender over the Christmas and New Year, and I think it should be circulated to all parish councils. I'm not sure that it has the full tender, but I will ask that question for my first question. So, has that tender been circulated to all councils?
No.
Okay, and a second question, if I may. Can I just ask a couple of questions around clause 9.15, which have just highlight a couple of questions for myself, just to highlight to everybody. Clause 9.15 is around solar panels being provided, potentially provided onto the shop, if I may. I'd just like to just ask, and maybe one of the working group wants to take away, and if I may be permitted just to read out the clause. Included in the sum is £3,500 for the supply and installation of solar panels and inverters by a specialist contractor. Clause B, the electricity generated by the panels shall be used by the shop. So my question is, does that have to be used exclusively by the shop, or would it not be prudent that we could share that generated electricity for both the shop and the toilets?
Certainly the information we've had in the past is that it has to go, there will be two separate electricity supplies. One will be for the shop, one will be for the toilet block. And certainly the information I've been given is it either has to go to one or the other. With the likely battery supply, if it was coming to the parish council side, the likelihood that we would use the power that would be generated would be very unlikely that we would get through it, because the only electricity we use is part of the day lighting and the odd bit of heating for the hand dryers. Whereas if it were to go to the shop, then obviously they would have bigger draw on the power, so they would use it, and that way you get the best use out of it. So that would be why it would go to the shop rather than to us.
So if I may be permitted to speak, again on that, I'd certainly like this council to look at this area and maybe give it some more discussion as a council. If you do the multiples on the solar, we are effectively providing free electricity for the shop. We have been told continually we're providing a shell. This is now another step on providing free electricity with exclusive use of the shop, and I'd certainly like us to explore options on that. I believe that there are other options around this solar area, and we maybe could delve into that further, but I'll put that further.
Also, one of the other things that is being looked into, John, is whether in fact the solar panels element of the cost may be coming under section 14 anyway.
Okay.
So in effect it could well be that the shop end up paying for the solar panels because they will get the benefit of solar panels, but that is something that we need to obviously have discussions amongst the council. But as I say, it's certainly something that we can have further discussions on in terms of what happens with that. Okay. Anything else members have on that? Also, just to update in terms of the Holly and Steer, we've had further information from them, haven't we, in terms of the heads of agreement. They have confirmed that they are now in discussions with the representatives of the shop to get the heads of terms and draft lease agreement drafted so that we can both look at it and hopefully get signed off, obviously before we're signing up to any final.
One of the things that Charles is very keen to do with our sister is to keep it as simple as possible. He does not want a hugely complicated lease. You know, we're not talking about a commercial lease here, we're talking about a community project. And he's very concerned that we should keep to a relatively simple, straightforward lease, laying it very clearly, clear terms, what it is we're expected to do and what it is the shop is expected to do, in very plain, simple language. And I think that's the right way to go, because otherwise we're going to end up having to sort of decipher complicated leases, which I don't think anybody really wants to do. So that's what Charles is proposing to do. And obviously he'll put the draft head lease to the shop, Clark, who's their sisters. They will have a look at it. We will have a working group meeting with the shop to make sure the shop management group are happy with it. And then hopefully we're in fact actually aiming to get a lease, completed lease, by the end of January. So well before the start of the building project is underway. So hopefully things are moving forward well.
And obviously Charles is working on the information that he took from the meeting that he had with representatives of this council and the shop some months ago, which at that stage, if you remember, Sarah was involved with going down with Owen to discuss that as the starting point of the lease.
The only other thing to say is on the loan application, that's been a challenging part of this whole project. We have got an extension to March so far. In fact, I think they would run up to June if we press them. And I phoned the lady at the department Levelling Up in London once a fortnight to give her an update, because that was one of the conditions that they extended it, that we gave her an update on exactly where we were on the project, in terms of tendering, in terms of National Grid and so on and so forth, which is what I'm doing. So she's getting a call from me every Tuesday at the moment. So that's it basically, apart from the permission from the council to
Yes.
expenditure.
Yes, members will remember at the last meeting we deferred an item that was the discussion of the working group, for the buildings working group to be able to, in effect, have permission to make decisions on items that came up at short notice. It may well be, as you know, with a building project, that something will happen that in effect needs a response swiftly rather than waiting for a next parish council meeting. We said we would wait and bring it back to this meeting to rediscuss. Any comments? Amanda?
Yes, I propose that the Buildings Working Group will give them permission to take decisions at short notice as and when required.
Melina?
Working groups don't have decision-making powers, and I propose that we don't give them working decision-making powers.
Which is the direct or negative, so you would vote that way.
Are you going to put a spending limit on it?
Yeah, I think it would make sense. I don't think we should be incurring expenditure. Most of it I don't think would incur expenditure anyway, but I think certainly if we put a cap of I don't know, anything no more than, yeah. So we put a cap of certainly nothing over £1,000 expenditure that could possibly be dealt with by that. But as I say, I think if it was an expenditure item, if this would be only if it's urgent.
Yeah.
If there's the ability to bring it to a meeting, then I think we would do that anyway. This is something that we would have to respond to swiftly. Okay. John.
Thank you, Chair. We have no definition at all of what decisions. We had a description in the last council meeting of minor decisions. We have no idea as a council what decisions mean. So I think it's way too vague to just give carte blanche to our working group, in my opinion.
Okay. Well, that's Tracy.
I think if we don't allow decisions to be taken, it could end up costing us a lot more money because we'll be delaying and incurring costs until decisions are taken.
Okay. So we have a proposal then that we give that power to that working group in order to make decisions that are needed at short notice to a maximum expenditure of no more than £1,000. And obviously, as I say, if I think the view would be if items are not urgent and therefore could be delayed, then I don't think we would, that would need to come back to council anyway. But we have that proposal that's been put forward. All those in favour of that, please show. And all those against, please show. Okay, so that is clearly carried by a majority. Item C on the agenda is ideas for annual parish meeting. Have members had
Any thoughts?
any suggestions?
Yeah, it's going to be good.
We'll do the tea. We'll do the tea.
Well, I think again, we have time, because the meeting will be April, May.
April, actually.
So, if we can, again, if members can have a think at the next meeting, if there's anything that you think would be of interest for...
If you wanted a speaker, of course, then we might be too late, depending on the organisation that we chose. But last year, if you remember right, we had the question and answer session. We had a question time thing, which was very successful. But I'm not sure you could do that 2 years running. I think perhaps every other year is a good thing for that.
And again, I mean, a number of other parishes have representatives from certain organisations within their village will come and give a report, so that would be something we could approach.
Would it be one of the things I think might be appropriate, particularly is going to be in April, is obviously to have some sort of session from the shop.
Yeah.
Because obviously we're going to get very close, we're getting very close to the start of the build. So maybe an update from the shop, on the shop itself, and perhaps an update from the council on the build, maybe, yeah?
Are members happy that we approach the shop and ask them if they would be prepared to do that? All those in favour, please show. Any against? Any abstentions? Okay. Right. And again, if other ideas come up, please do feed them back, because we've still got time.
We still got time, yeah.
Next item is appointment of Richard Young as the internal auditor for 23-24.
Yeah, we're perhaps a little bit ahead here, because I normally do some but I think it's good to let the internal auditor know that we're seeking the services again. Richard Young has been our internal auditor now for 9 years. He charges a nominal amount of £20 to do an internal audit, which is incredible. And he is a very competent clerk of Burnham Without, Mark, Cossington and all other directions in Somerset. Yeah.
Somerset Plainfield Association.
And Somerset Plainfield Association, yeah, exactly. Yeah. So just need a resolution to approve that, because the auditor will need to see that. Okay?
All those in favour, show.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's unanimous. David, any updates on the strimmer?
I haven't done anything, but I will.
Okay.
And the next one as well.
Okay.
Sorry.
Again, the strimmer will be useful before the spring hits.
Yeah.
Okay. Flood Action Group. Remember at the last meeting we talked about looking to re-establish the Flood Action Group, for them to be able to sort of re-look at the flood action plan that the parish had from a number of years ago, which needs obviously updating. We put our note out in Owen's report, I think, asking for members of the villagers who were willing to come forward and volunteer. I think we've had some responses.
Yeah, we've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 7, including two of them being our councillors. So we've got 7 in total. But they're all people that, I mean, you know, one particularly was involved in the last emergency back in 2012 there. So yeah. Do you want to pass on the names?
I think,
Yeah.
I think we
We've
need
basically
to...
got, we've got Stuart Hacker, well-known, Jed Keel, Ady of course, our own councillor, Bill Biggs, who was here at the surgery yesterday morning, Andrew Warren, who was involved in the previous flood action group back in 2012, Chris Smith and David Knott. That's the group at the moment.
Also, if I've sort of said I'm happy to be a helper, but I'm not going to be an organiser.
Yeah.
I'll be a pair of hands. Amanda?
I was going to say I'm happy to do it as well because I normally go and help out with it. But I was just going to suggest that it would be a good idea if David headed up the organisation because he's number one, the only one qualified to use the pump. Number two, he's got the Chapter 8 to close the road, obviously, which I've got as well now. And he understands where all the drains and all the schmozzle goes that takes the water here, there and everywhere.
That's a technical term.
SCH.
Okay, so you're happy to put
I
your
was
name
going to
forward to be
propose
helped?
that, yes, I'll help, because I always get called to go out anyway. But I was going to propose that David heads this up, and then, because you've got to have one person in charge, otherwise it will just be chaos, won't it?
Okay. Are there any other councillors who want to be considered for helping with this? No. Okay. In which case, so we've got the names that Owen has just gone through. If we can just ask members to confirm they're happy for those people to be appointed to the Flood Action Group team. So can we just rerun through those again? So
Stuart Hacker, Jed Keel, Adi Yakovic, Phil Biggs, Andrew Warren, Chris Smith, and David and Amanda.
and myself.
And Bob, as an emergency.
Okay. All those in favour then that they are appointed to the Flood Action Group, please show. And that's unanimous. Thank you very much. And David, if we can, if you're happy with the head up. And as I say, I think it'll come in two parts because there's the physical having to help when there's something going off in the village, and maybe there's bits physical work to again avoid things going off in the village, but also the drawing together of the old flood action plan. So, in terms of the flood action plan, I think we have got now an electronic version of it.
I believe Colin's got the file, hasn't he?
Yeah, so I think we may have one that we will get.
What I've got here somewhere, and I'll give it to you later on if you like, David, I've got here the previous flood action plan we had, which I'll let you have before you go.
Yeah, that's a good base.
And that's a good basis, because some is out of date.
Yeah.
But it can be updated.
And I think with that one, if members are happy that we circulate that plan to the members of the working group, and then they come back to us with their proposals as to what needs to be updated, because obviously it will need to be adopted by the parish council, so we will need to be involved with it to see how we go. Yeah.
Did anything happen about the signage that we discussed, or?
No,
nothing else.
that can come under it.
Okay.
Okay. So we need to chase that in terms of those two sets of two signs that we agreed at the last meeting that we were going to get for the emergencies.
And maybe some sandbags and things like that. So we've got the.
I think that will be something we'll need to come out
Yeah,
of because
We've
the
actually
actual
got some sandbags
There's some there, isn't there?
since from 2012.
Yeah.
We've got some.
But nice of eating them, isn't it?
part of the plan is going to be how and where it gets stored.
Yeah.
Because once you start talking sandbags, you're not talking small
Your
areas.
garage, I expect.
Okay, we won't go there. Anything else on the flood action group before we move on? No. Next item was the fish and chip van. As members know, we have had a trial of the fish and chip van operating once a fortnight. It's on the agenda basically for members to give some feedback as to whether they think it's been operating okay, and if so, are they happy for it to continue for the moment?
Had some good reports.
Any comments? In which case, if our members, well, let's put forward that our members happy that we allow the chip van to continue in the same way that the pizza van has been operating. Still on the basis at the moment of it's one evening a week that's being used, they're using it fortnightly, and then we'll come back in again a couple of months to see how things go once we're heading out of the winter time, because we're going to have to review it once we start doing anything on the car park anyway. But so if we put the proposal that we are happy that the current trial continues, and then we review it in March, April.
March, April, I think, yeah.
Okay. All those in favour, please show. All those. Okay. All those against. Any abstentions? Thank you. Right. That covers all the items that were there. So matters of. If we Start
Yes.
with, if I start with Jane, I'll work my way around.
Yeah.
Jane.
No.
Amanda. John.
I'd just like to put on there that I feel one of our proposals tonight is actually invalid against our standing orders, and I'll be bringing it up at the next parish council meeting.
Okay. Melina.
No.